This is Midweek Politics with Dave Pakman.
Hey, welcome to the show. Lots to get to this week. A little bit later, Michael Dukakis, and I will ask him, Lewis, about the famous picture of him with an army helmet sitting on popping out of the turret of a tank, which some say may have ruined his presidential campaign. I will ask him about that later on. And we know that I don't know what we can compare it to. We can compare it to when Howard Dean yelled out. I don't know. It's a quintessential picture of American politics. And I'm curious whether now he thinks it was a mistake looking back. I assume he's going to say it didn't actually ruin the campaign, but we'll see. More on that later. Please visit our website, midweekpolitics.com. And if you're not getting the Midweek Politics newsletter, you should sign up for that. We just today, we did a little bit of a redesign to the website. And I have to say, Lewis, not that I have anything to do with it, but it's really looking pretty good. Top right corner, put in your email address. You'll get our what's coming up. You'll get a chance to send emails when you have questions for upcoming interviews. It just makes sense to be on the newsletter. And I know you're on it now, right? Somebody signed you up.
Somebody did. Yeah, I just started getting them.
Okay. Of course, can spam. You opted in verbally, and then I signed you up for it. Mm-hmm. A couple of new stations, rather. One is a radio station, KCUW in Pendleton, Oregon, is airing Midweek Politics, and it's great to be on. They're actually off the coast. They're far from the coast of Oregon, or at least not right on it. And up to now, I think most of our West Coast stations, not surprisingly, are pretty close to the water. I think that just when you do a progressive talk show, most of your stations are going to be near water, I think is fair to say. And probably the same thing with UPT-TV in Urbana, Illinois, also covering Champaign, Illinois, and a few other towns. Lake Michigan is there. So not too far. No matter where our show is heard, with a few exceptions, you're pretty close to being able to go to some kind of beach, even if it's just a little stream, you know?
I guess so. Yeah, that's pretty good. What about Ghana? I don't think
That's right. In Ghana, we're actually pretty far from the coast. It's a whole different ballgame out there. And right. Alex, the program director there, who's been great about having us on, I don't think he's that close to Ghana is on the coast. The country is, but where he is, I don't think is anywhere close to the ocean. Glenn Beck, did you hear about this? Glenn Beck is actually running his show without ads in the UK. This happened for 4 straight days. This is really funny to me. The British broadcast of Fox News' Glenn Beck show was forced to run without any paid advertisers last week after the last of the program's corporate sponsors bailed out. Fox News Channel was forced to fill commercial breaks with news headlines and local weather updates instead of any actual advertisements. And I know if you're watching it, not having to listen to commercials is great, but if you don't have commercials, the show isn't getting paid for. So it's not an ideal situation. Beck's broadcast has been under a lot of criticism and a lot of advertising trouble since Glenn Beck declared that President Obama was a racist, which is a remark that set off a lot of protests. He also said that Barack Obama had a deep-seated hatred for white people or the white culture. We know that is something that is not uncommon to a lot of those who did not support Barack Obama in 2008. He also said, I'm not saying that he doesn't like white people. I'm saying he has a problem. This guy, I believe, is a racist. And no surprise. I mean, Glenn Beck makes these comments all the time.
If you're an ugly woman, I apologize. Oh, you've got a double cross, because if you're an ugly woman, you're probably a progressive as well.
Okay, so we're used to that type of thing from Glenn Beck. Funny that literally no advertisers on the UK version of his show. And a couple other Fox News things. Steve Doocey, who's on the Fox and Friends show, kind of an odd guy. He says that he just makes stuff up regarding terrorism and racial profiling. Take a listen to this.
Yeah, how they look like is racial profiling, which I'm not for, but behavioral profiling makes all the sense in the world.
But Ahmed, critics argue, when you think about it, for the most part, all the people who have tried to blow airliners out of the sky pretty much look alike. Look similar.
False.
Have similar.
False information. Not true. The last guy we don't have to go far. The last guy that tried to take down a plane was a young African. And in the past, prior to that incident, we were looking for Middle Eastern-looking men.
Sure.
Next time, it could be an Asian guy. So, no, they don't always look alike.
Right, and you go back a number of years, and it was Timothy McVeigh, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed guy who...
or Richard Reed, who's half Jamaican, half British.
Okay, there.
So just flat wrong, and doesn't even seem fazed by it. He'll say whatever, and it seems anybody on Fox and Friends, honestly, will say whatever they want, and then if somebody calls them out against it, hey, they'll agree because they know they're wrong. They know that there's very little factual basis for anything that is being said there.
The amount of abadabadoos that are coming from Canada into the United States.
We hear this all the time, right? That we know exactly. There's a certain look that all the terrorists have, except when we think of James von Brunn, who shot up at the Holocaust Museum recently in Washington, D.C., when we think about this guy who flew a plane into the IRS building just last week, who is not being called a terrorist, but when we think about people who purposely crash planes, hey, that's what he did. He purposely crashed a plane for his own reasons. And when we think about the
domestic terrorism,
when we think about the underwear bomber, I get it. If you think that anybody who's not white looks the same, then yes, the underwear bomber looks exactly the same as Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. But if you actually realize that one is Nigerian and the other is Middle Eastern, and that they don't look any more similar than anybody else, you realize that Steve Doocey is wrong. And you would actually, even if we had been stopping every single, quote, Middle Eastern looking person in Africa, it still wouldn't have stopped the underwear bomber because he looked completely different. So I don't know where he's coming up with this so-called data, but it doesn't seem to be based in fact. This episode of Midweek Politics has been made possible in part by Just Coffee Cooperative, fair trade coffee from around the world roasted daily at justcoffee.coop.